70 million years ago, the Arctic was not the eternal white expanse of ice we know today. In summer, the sun shone continuously for weeks. Temperatures could reach up to 15 degrees Celsius, and dense forests thrived with ferns, moss, ancient conifers, and slow-flowing rivers winding through the land. But when winter arrived, the region transformed into an entirely different world. The sun dipped below the horizon and vanished for 120 days, leaving everything in deep darkness. The only light came from the soft green and purple glow of the aurora, quietly dancing across the sky. Cold winds swept through the towering trees, carrying the dampness of frost and another scent, the unmistakable sign of survival, where every creature was engaged in the struggle to endure. In that darkness, some rulers needed no massive strength to survive. They relied on intelligence, speed, and remarkable adaptability. And one of the true masters of the Arctic night was Troodon, a small dinosaur, yet one of the most intelligent to have ever lived. Troodon emerged like a slender shadow, moving through the forest. Measuring about 2.5 meters long, less than a meter tall, and weighing just over 50 kilograms, it had a compact body, capable of slipping through the tightest gaps between dense shrubs. Its large, round eyes reflected the glow of the aurora, set just far enough apart to sweep the entire field of vision ahead. Its plumage was a blend of grayish-brown streaked with pale white, resembling the mottled moonlight on snow, allowing it to vanish almost completely when still. A fine layer of down close to its skin kept it warm, while longer outer feathers blocked the wind and stopped the cold from penetrating deep into its muscles. What truly set Troodon apart from other species was its brain. Relative to body size, it had the largest brain of any dinosaur, with highly developed neural regions for vision, balance, and movement. This meant Troodon could not only see clearly in the dark, but also calculate the trajectory of its prey, predict where it would run, and choose the perfect spot to intercept before the target could react. Its ears, hidden but extremely sensitive, could pick up the faint rustle of a small creature under the leaf litter, even as the Arctic wind howled through the forest. Troodon was an opportunistic omnivore. In the long summer days full of sunlight, it hunted fish along riverbanks, snatched lizards basking in the warmth, and foraged for berries, seeds, and fresh shoots. But when winter dragged on, food grew scarce and darkness enveloped the land, it became a true survival expert, willing to feed on moss, bark, and anything else it could chew. This adaptability was a crucial weapon that kept it alive in a place where many species had already disappeared from the struggle for existence. Tonight, Troodon moved silently past moss-covered roots, placing each step precisely on the soft snow to make no sound. Suddenly, it stopped, tilting its head slightly. The wind shifted, carrying the sharp scent of a small creature, an ancient rodent digging through leaves for seeds. Troodon crouched low, circling to the opposite side to avoid giving away its scent. Its pupils narrowed, locking fully onto the tiny dark shape. In motion, as it closed in, the muscles in its hind legs drew taut like a bowstring. Then, in a single instant, Troodon burst forward, its curved, sharp claws on the hind feet pinning the prey down. Slender, serrated teeth clamped firmly, ending the hunt within seconds. Troodon did not rush to feed. It stepped back, listening and watching. In the Arctic forest, danger could arrive faster than the prey itself. What Troodon didn't know is that, on a nearby branch, another pair of eyes had been watching it all along. Those eyes belonged to another predator, smaller, quicker, and far more daring, the Dromeosaur. From high above, hidden among the dark canopy, a pair of sharp eyes gleamed in the faint light of the aurora. They belonged to the Dromeosaur, a small but daring predator, always alert to the slightest movement in this frozen forest. It had been tracking Troodon since the hunt began, not to attack the other hunter, but to wait patiently for the chance to claim whatever scraps might be left behind. The Dromeosaur measured only about 1.5 to 2 meters in length, stood less than half a meter tall, and weighed roughly 15 kilograms. Yet every muscle was built for sudden bursts of speed and unmatched agility. Its thick gray-brown feathers, streaked with darker patches, clung tightly to its body and covered both hind legs, forming a natural shield against the biting polar winds. Beneath that feathered coat were powerful legs, each foot armed with a curved, sickle-shaped claw sharp as a blade. These claws were not just for tearing into prey, but also for climbing, allowing the Dromeosaur to sprint up tree trunks in just a few heartbeats. In the darkness, its vision functioned like a precision instrument. Every motion, whether a butterfly's wing trembling or a single leaf drifting down, was instantly registered. Coupled with an acute sense of smell, it could easily follow the trail of prey or locate abandoned meals. But the Dromeosaur's true skill lay not just in finding a target, but in the way it approached it. It moved like a shadow, silent, fluid, and elusive. With a sudden push from its hind legs, it could glide through the canopy, change direction in a heartbeat, and land with barely a sound. In the Arctic, when food became scarce during the long night season, the Dromeosaur was far from picky. It could hunt small lizards, ancient birds, or tiny rodent-like creatures. But its most efficient strategy was to trail larger predators, waiting for them to finish feeding and leave behind remains. Once Troodon was gone, the Dromeosaur slipped quietly down to the forest floor, following the faint metallic scent still lingering in the air. Just a few steps led it to a patch of snow stained with traces of the hunt and a small scrap of meat. It gripped the prize with its claws, tearing it apart with short but powerful teeth, chewing quickly as if afraid it might be taken away. Yet in this world, even while eating, the Dromeosaur was never truly safe. Instinct demanded that it keep lifting its head, ears tuned to every sound, eyes darting to catch any sign of danger. And then a sudden wave of unease rippled through its body. The wind had shifted, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of a predator far larger than any in this forest. The feathers along its neck bristled. It knew that scent, the absolute ruler of the polar wilderness, Nanuqsaurus. Without hesitation, the Dromeosaur crouched low, then sprang upward, claws hooking into the tree trunk as it scrambled swiftly into the higher branches, hiding among the snow-laden boughs. On the ground below, the massive, ghostly white silhouette of the Nanuqsaurus moved closer, each heavy step radiating power, its golden eyes sweeping from side to side, its keen sense of smell guiding it toward its next feast. The sound of footsteps echoed in the stillness, each thud against the ground making the thin layer of snow tremble as if under an immense weight. From within the mist and the blinding white patches of the frozen earth, a massive shape slowly emerged. It was not a gust of wind, nor a shifting block of ice. It was Nanuqsaurus, the polar bear lizard, the undisputed ruler of this land. It stretched about 6 meters in length and weighed over a ton, yet moved with remarkable grace. A thick, multi-layered coat of white feathers hugged its body, blending it seamlessly into the landscape, a walking snowdrift. Every heavy step pressed deep into the thin ice, leaving behind impressions that alone could tell the story of the raw muscle hidden beneath. The golden eyes of Nanuqsaurus swept coldly across the forest, but sight was only part of its hunting arsenal. This apex predator relied on a far more potent weapon, its sense of smell. The structure of its skull revealed an enormous olfactory system, capable of detecting the scent of blood or the faint breath of prey from kilometers away. And today, carried on the freezing wind, it had caught a signal, the scent of a small feast. The smell of fresh meat, recently torn, still lingered in the air. Nanuqsaurus tilted its head, inhaled deeply, and shifted its course. Long feathers along its neck quivered as it quickened its pace. Within a few breaths, the massive body wove through the trees, each step biting deep into the snow without the slightest hesitation. For this predator, the hunt was not a rare event. It was life itself. In the Arctic, where hunger could bring down any creature, hesitation was a death sentence. It entered the area where, just moments earlier, the Dromeosaur had been crouched over its meal. Lowering its head, nose close to the ground, Nanuqsaurus picked up the traces, bloodstains, footprints, and the deep gouges left by claws in the ice. It lifted its head and let out a low, resonant growl, a territorial declaration. The sound rolled through the forest, enough for every creature nearby to feel the presence of the apex hunter. Nanuqsaurus rarely needed to rush. But when it caught the sign of a small creature scrambling upward to hide, its predatory instincts ignited. Tilting its head back, its golden eyes locked on the faint movement high among the snow-laden branches. That tiny figure, the Dromeosaur, was now a potential target. In a heartbeat, Nanuqsaurus surged forward, claws tearing into the frozen ground. The branch trembled violently as the Dromeosaur clung tighter, its heart pounding. Nanuqsaurus raised its head, revealing massive jaws beneath the thick, feathered mantle, jaws powerful enough to crush bone in a single bite. Yet, the giant did not always waste energy on such small prey. After a few seconds of assessment, it stepped back, turned away, and resumed following other tracks, ones that promised a far more substantial meal. Its long tail swept the ground, sending a thin spray of snow drifting into the air like pale smoke. The forest returned to silence, though the tension remained taut, for every creature knew Nanuqsaurus was only leaving for now. High in the branches, the Dromeosaur panted, listening to the wind. It had escaped by a hair's breadth, but had also just witnessed the reason Nanuqsaurus was called the White Phantom of the Arctic, a predator even the boldest hunters gave way to, and somewhere beneath. As the footsteps of the Nanuqsaurus faded into the distance, silence returned to the Arctic forest. But here, silence never meant safety. From behind a moss-covered, snow-laden tree trunk, a small shadow emerged. Gliding close to the ground like an arrow slipping through the mist, it was Saurornitholestes, a tiny yet daring predator, a close relative of Velociraptor. Measuring only about 1.5 to 2 meters in length, standing roughly half a meter tall, and weighing around 10 kilograms, it was much smaller than Troodon or Dromeosaur. But every muscle and sinew in its body was crafted for speed and agility. Its body was cloaked in thick mottled gray-brown feathers, blending seamlessly with the snow and tree bark, making it nearly invisible when it stood still. Its primary weapons were the curved claws on the second toe of each foot. In an attack, they could hook into a prey's body, holding it in place as its razor-sharp teeth sank deep. Though small, those teeth were perfectly suited to tearing through flesh or crushing the bones of small reptiles and ancient birds. Living in a world ruled by giants like the Nanuqsaurus meant its hunting strategy was entirely different. It rarely confronted prey head-on. Instead, it relied on speed and its ability to slip through narrow gaps to launch surprise attacks. Long, powerful hind legs allowed it to leap nearly its own height, vaulting over jagged ice or springing through tangled undergrowth in the blink of an eye. Every leap was an explosion of energy, its body stretching like a dart, claws touching down for just a heartbeat before springing forward again, giving its prey no time to react. Tonight, the scent of blood still lingered in the air, a trace of the feast Troodon and Dromeosaur had left behind. Saurornitholestes followed the scent, moving in a wide arc to avoid the tracks of Nanuqsaurus. Instinct told it the giant could return at any moment. As it drew closer, it didn't charge straight in. Instead, it froze in the shadows, observing. Its ears twitched slightly, filtering sounds, the wind, the creak of tree branches, and the faintest sound of footsteps in the distance that a small ancient bird was pecking at the snow, searching for seeds. Only a few meters away, Saurornitholestes lowered its body, tail stretched straight for balance. The leap came in absolute silence, a blur slicing through the night. The bird barely had time to flinch before the predator's claws pinned it down, its toothy beak snapping forward to finish the hunt in one swift motion. It didn't linger to savor the moment. Instead, it dragged its prize into a tangle of tree roots, eating while staying alert. Every few seconds, it lifted its head, black eyes glinting under the aurora, ready to abandon the meal if the shadow of a larger hunter appeared. In this land, survival wasn't measured in years. It was counted by nights endured by each escape from claws and teeth, and so, beneath the frozen canopy of the Arctic forest, tiny predators like Saurornitholestes continued their cycle of survival, slipping between giants, living on speed and cunning. The night remained unbroken, the aurora still danced above, and somewhere in the darkness, new footsteps echoed, a reminder that the game of hunter and hunted never truly ends. In the Arctic, every meal was a battle, and survival was measured night by night. From the cunning Troodon, the daring Dromeosaur, and the towering Nanuqsaurus to the lightning-fast Saurornitholestes, each played their part in an endless game of survival, where only the most adaptable could hope to live long enough to greet the dawn. Now, imagine being transported back to that time, standing in the middle of an Arctic forest plunged into 120 days of darkness, where predator and prey were separated by nothing more than a single breath. Which side would you choose? The intelligent Troodon? The agile Dromeosaur? The dominant Nanuqsaurus? Or the elusive Saurornitholestes? Share your choice in the comments. I'd love to know the reason behind it. And if you've enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to hit the like button to show your support and subscribe so we can continue exploring together. In the adventures ahead, we'll uncover more of the magnificent prehistoric creatures, species that vanished tens of millions of years ago, yet remain vividly alive in the imagination of humankind.